He sat slumped against the seawall, legs stretched neatly in front of him, as if he'd just dozed off during an evening stroll. A half-smoked cigarette rested on his collar. His shoes were polished, his suit pressed. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no bruises, and no one knew his name. He carried no wallet. Every label had been cut from his clothing. His fingerprints matched no records in Australia or anywhere else. The cause of death? Unknown. And then, weeks later, tucked deep inside a hidden pocket in his trousers, investigators found it. A tiny, rolled up scrap of paper, neatly trimmed from the final page of a book. It read two words: Tamám Shud, Persian for it is ended. Who was the Somerton Man? A spy? A lost lover? A victim of his own secrets? For decades, the mystery has defied logic, science, and even modern DNA. And the more you learn, the stranger it gets. This is the Midnight Mystery Archive, and I'm Kevin. And tonight we revisit a body on the beach, a cryptic book of poetry, and the riddle that still whispers from the sand, the Tamám Shud case. It was just before 7 a.m. on December 1st, 1948, when a local man walking along Somerton Beach, just south of Adelaide, Australia, spotted something strange near the seawall. A man, well dressed in a brown suit and freshly shined shoes, was sitting against the stones, legs extended, ankles crossed, his back slightly slouched. He looked peaceful, asleep almost, but something was off. The witness approached. The man didn't move. His skin was cold. He was dead. The police were called. A post-mortem was ordered, and what they discovered only deepened the mystery. First, there was no form of identification. No wallet, no driver's license, no tags on his clothes. All had been carefully cut away. There were no signs of trauma, no stab wounds, no bruises. His hands were clean, his fingernails trimmed. The only clue was a partially smoked cigarette resting oddly on his collar, as though it had fallen from his mouth moments before death. The autopsy report released days later was no less baffling. His heart and liver were congested with blood. His spleen was nearly 3 times its normal size. His stomach contained partially digested food, including a pasty likely eaten hours before his death. No traces of poison were found. But toxicologists suspected some kind of fast-acting barbiturate or cardiac stimulant, one that wouldn't show up on post-war tests. The official cause of death was left undetermined. Investigators turned to the man's appearance for clues. He was estimated to be between 40 and 45 years old, clean-shaven, athletic build. He had unusually well-developed calf muscles, possibly from years of ballet or long-distance cycling. His hands were not those of a laborer. His dental records didn't match any in the country. His fingerprints were run nationally and internationally and turned up nothing. Australia's major newspapers published photographs of the body. No one came forward. No missing persons report matched. He was a complete cipher, a man without a past. But then, another strange clue surfaced. Investigators turned up a suitcase at the Adelaide train station, checked in the day before the body was found. Inside, a pair of slippers, a shaving kit, a pair of scissors, a stenciling brush, the kind used by cargo ship workers, spools of thread not sold in Australia, and a coat with a rare type of feather stitching, only used in the United States. No tags, no initials, but it deepened the question. Who was this man and why was he in Adelaide? With no name, no family, and no cause of death, the police were stumped. But then, 6 weeks later, a discovery would break the case wide open, or so they thought. 6 weeks passed. No name, no relatives, no cause of death. The man from Somerton Beach remained unidentified and unexplained. But then investigators discovered something extraordinary. Sewn deep into the waistband of the man's trousers, inside a small hidden pocket no one had noticed before, was a tiny, tightly rolled scrap of paper. 2 words written in elegant script, Tamám Shud. It was Persian, from the final page of a book of poetry called The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Roughly translated, it is finished, or it is ended. It was a phrase commonly associated with closure, finality, or even suicide. But this wasn't just philosophical. The page had been cut from a very specific edition of the book, printed in New Zealand in a rare format almost impossible to find. The question became, where was the book, and why had this man carried its final line into death? A few days later, a man came forward. He told police that back in late November, he had parked his car just a few blocks from Somerton Beach and returned to find a strange book tossed into his back seat. He didn't think much of it at the time, until he saw the news about the Tamám Shud note. Sure enough, the book he turned in was the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, the exact edition, and the final page, ripped clean out. That book would prove to be the strangest and most enduring clue in this entire case. Inside it, investigators found a phone number scribbled on the inside back cover, a few illegible words faintly written in pencil, and most mysteriously, a series of 5 cryptic lines written in block capitals. I'll spell them out for you. WRGOABABD, MLIAOI, WTBIMPANETP, MLIABOAIAQC, ITTMT SAMSTGAB. To this day, the meanings of those letters remains unsolved. Cryptologists, military analysts, and amateur sleuths have proposed countless theories, but no interpretation has ever stuck. Was it a cipher, a personal code, a mnemonic device, or perhaps a page torn from the mind of someone spiraling toward death? But it wasn't just the code. That phone number scribbled in the back of the book, it led investigators to a woman who lived just 5 minutes from where the man's body had been found. Her name was Jo Thompson, a nurse and former ballet dancer. When detectives questioned her, she admitted to owning a copy of the same book and said she had once given a copy to a man named Alf Boxall during the war. She denied knowing the dead man, said she had no idea how her number ended up in that copy, and said she had nothing to hide. But witnesses reported that when she was shown a plaster bust of the dead man's face, she nearly fainted. Some believed she recognized him. Others said it was guilt or shock. Jo never admitted to knowing more than she told the police. And when they found Alf Boxall alive and well, with his own copy of the Rubaiyat, untouched with the final page intact, the last link to a clear narrative vanished. So here's what we have. A man dies mysteriously, no ID, no known poison. He carries a scrap of paper with a Persian farewell. A book book turns up in a stranger's car containing a code and a woman's phone number. The woman denies knowing him, but may have reacted emotionally. And all of it leads nowhere. The Tamám Shud case was no longer just a death. It was a mystery wrapped in riddles, cultural, linguistic, romantic, and possibly political. With no name, no cause of death, and no clear connection to anyone living, the man on Somerton Beach became something more than a mystery. He became a cipher, and like all good ciphers, people began to interpret him in wildly different ways. It didn't take long for whispers of espionage to surface. Consider the facts. A man with no ID or matching fingerprints, a rare book linked to cryptography, a strange, possibly coded message, travel-related items like a stenciling brush and thread not sold in Australia, and a connection to a woman trained in nursing, a common wartime background for female agents. The timing mattered too. This was 1948, the start of the Cold War, a time when both Soviet and Western intelligence services were recruiting, exchanging, and in some cases eliminating agents across the globe. Australia, often overlooked in global spycraft, was actually home to Woomera, a top-secret weapons testing facility and rocket range, a facility known to have Soviet interest. Could the Somerton Man have been a spy, meeting with a contact who decided to silence him? Or had he been poisoned by someone else entirely, a defector tracked down? The poison theory aligns with early autopsy findings. Engorged organs, clean external appearance, fast-acting, possibly digitalis or strophanthin, both cardiac poisons that metabolize quickly and were difficult to trace at the time. But no trace was found. Just like in a good spy novel, everything evaporated. Others reject the cloak and dagger angle and point instead to romance. Joe Thompson. What if she did know the man? What if he was a former lover, a soldier, maybe even the father of her child? Some researchers believe Joe's son, Robin, resembled the Somerton Man, particularly in one very specific way. Both had a rare genetic feature, a pronounced upper ear cavity known as Simba, present in only about 1 to 2% of the population. Both were also reportedly missing their lateral incisors, a condition called congenital dental agenesis, also rare. Could Robin have been the Somerton Man's son? Was a man trying to reconnect, rejected, and driven to suicide? Joe never publicly admitted to knowing him, and Robin died in 2009 before DNA evidence could confirm or deny the link. What about the code? Cryptographers from military analysts to amateur sleuths have tried to crack those 5 lines of blocky letters that I won't repeat again. But decades of analysis have yielded nothing conclusive. Some suggest the code was never a cipher at all. Instead, they argue it may have been a personal mnemonic, a memory device for verses or directions, or even the product of a disturbed mind. After all, the Rubaiyat is a deeply philosophical book, one that contemplates fate, death, and the futility of understanding the universe. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on. Perhaps the Somerton Man was trying to leave a riddle, or perhaps he was writing to no one but himself. Finally, some believe the Tamám Shud case is intentionally unsolvable, that the man, whoever he was, came to Adelaide to die. He erased his name, removed all clues, left behind a poetic fragment, and then slipped quietly out of history. It's tempting to frame it as murder, espionage, or heartbreak, but maybe it was simply the final act of a man who wanted to go away and disappear. Still, something about this case won't let go. Not the torn book, not the suitcase, not Joe's reaction, and not the phrase Tamám Shud. Final, deliberate, almost theatrical. But then again, some mysteries feel more like performances than events. And the curtain isn't down just yet. For over 70 years, the Somerton Man was a ghost. No name, no home, no past. A man remembered more for how he died than how he lived. But then, in 2022, after decades of silence, the mystery seemed to shift. Because someone finally claimed to know who he was, and that someone was science. In the early 2000s, a new tool entered the mystery-solving world: forensic genealogy. You've heard it before. It's how investigators caught the Golden State Killer. By matching DNA profiles against public genealogy databases, researchers can reverse engineer a family tree from the dead backward. And so, decades after his burial, the Somerton Man's body was exhumed in 2021. Forensic scientists extracted a usable DNA sample from his remains, not an easy feat after more than 70 years underground. That sample was passed to Dr. Derek Abbott, a professor at the University of Adelaide, who had studied the case obsessively for over a decade. With the help of American genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick, they built a family tree. Over 4,000 branches, 23,000 names, until finally, one name floated to the top: Carl Webb. Born in 1905 in Melbourne, Australia, an electrical engineer with a background in instrument design, a quiet man, reclusive, and brilliant. Records showed he had been separated from his wife in the late 1940s. No death certificate had ever been issued. He had, in every practical sense, vanished. He fit the Somerton Man's age, build, background, and location. And most importantly, the DNA matched multiple living relatives. The case, it seemed, had cracked. The Somerton Man, after all these years, was Carl Webb. But if that answer felt satisfying, it didn't last long. Because naming him only raised new questions. Why was he in Adelaide? Why did he cut all the tags from his clothing? Was he trying to disappear? Was he truly connected to Joe Thompson? Or was that just eerie coincidence? And what about the book, the cipher, the poetic farewell? As of now, Carl Webb is the best supported identity for the Somerton Man. But beyond the DNA, there's still no clear motive, no eyewitnesses, and no definitive cause of death. Some believe he took his own life. Others believe foul play was involved. There's even speculation that Joe Thompson's son Robin may have been connected genetically. But Jo herself died in 2007, never having offered further details, and any secret she carried went with her. So in the end, we're left with something strange. We have a name, but we still don't have a story. The cipher remains unsolved, the motive is unclear, the truth incomplete. A man dies quietly on a beach, with poetry in his pocket and mystery in his veins. And 7 years later, we finally learn what may be his name, but not who he was, or why he died, or who, if anyone, waited for him to come home. The scrap of paper in his pocket read, Tamám Shud. It is ended. But mysteries like this, they never really end. They just settle deeper into the sands of time. This has been the Midnight Mystery Archive. Remember, new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Until next time.